If you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by portrait photography, or just at a loss of what to focus on to take you to that next level, then come hang with me. I help guide portrait photographers just like you to stay clear and sharp in camera and with your goals. I'm your host, photographer, educator, and weirdly positive mama of four, Emily Supio. And this is the Stay Focused podcast. Photography advice to help you stay focused. Well, hey everyone, it's Emily, and thank you so much for pressing play on today's episode of the Stay Focused podcast. I love today's episode because I am chatting with one of my past students, Sarah Gassman, and I always love connecting and reconnecting with students I've worked with in the past. Now, Sarah is phenomenal. Sarah has some truly golden nugget pieces of advice when it comes to growing a business. And I'm going to share this with you right in the beginning, but Sarah went from charging free, she charged $0 for sessions, to slowly charging and shaking her head that people would even pay her the little bit she was charging, to now being a mega successful newborn photographer in a super saturated town. Now, before I bring Sarah on, if you've listened to past episodes of the Stay Focused podcast, or if this is the first time you're listening, I would so appreciate if you would take 2 seconds and head over to iTunes, hit the subscribe button, and leave a quick rating and review for the show. I know I ask you this a lot if you've listened to the show, but it helps me out so much, and it helps the podcast move up in the rankings so that more photographers can learn and grow their business as well. And if you need help growing your portrait or family photography business, maybe you wonder if you're pricing yourself correctly, or you just wonder where to find clients that will pay you, then I have something perfect for you. My brand new free business class is available for you to watch and learn today. All you have to do is go to cozyclicks.com/business class. You can also find this link in the show notes page on cozyclicks.com or in the description wherever you are listening to this podcast today. Just click the link to sign up and you can watch the business class today. All right, in just a second, I'm going to bring out my past student, Sarah, who has a very unique take on the mistakes that she has made throughout her photography business journey, as well as she's going to share exact strategies that she has used to find clients. That's the million-dollar question everyone wants to know the answer to, right? All right, you guys, I have Sarah Gassman with us on the show today. Hey, Sarah, how are you?
Hi, Emily. I'm great. How are you?
Good. Now, Sarah, I know that a lot of people might not know who you are or anything about your business. Maybe some people do. I don't want to assume that nobody does, but I want them to know you even better. So can you tell us a little bit about you and your business and what that looks like?
Sure. I am located in Houston, Texas, and I am a full-service portrait photographer. My specialties are maternity and newborn, and I have been adding in a lot of headshots and branding sessions lately. So I kind of run the gamut from, that baby bump to the babies and all the way to adults. I still do some family photography as well. That's kind of where I started, and it's morphed into this for me now.
Well, I love it. And you do beautiful work, Sarah. Now, something I learned about you recently that I didn't know, and maybe this is because you just look so youthful, but you started your business a little later than most people do when they're thinking of starting a business, right? How old were you when you started your business?
I was, when I officially started my business, I guess I was 36 or 37. Something like that. Yeah, I spent 14 years in education. I was a high school and college math teacher and administrator in a high school. And I had babies later than a lot of people. And that's sort of when the portrait photography started, as a lot of people do that. A lot of moms start with
that. That sounds really similar to me. I didn't teach high school though. I taught like elementary and preschool, and then I had kids.
And for me, I started my business at 30. And I always thought that was old. I thought that, 30 years old, geez, I'm so much older than everyone else. And then you said you were 37. And I think that's kind of not that trending is the word, but I think that it is just becoming more and more, not even acceptable, but just that people know that they can do this. They can switch careers, they can start something new. Did you get any pushback from your family or anything like that when you said like, oh, at 37, I'm going to do something totally different. I'm going to start my own business.
Well, at first it was sort of just kind of a side business and just something I did, on the weekends and when there was, a little bit of free time. I think there are some people in my family, I'm not going to name names, not maybe my immediate family, who still think of me as a hobbyist and not really accepting the fact that I do have a business and I do make money taking pictures. And my husband is the one who really pushed me to move towards newborn and headshots and things that I could do during the week, because I got to the point where I was just booked solid in the fall on the weekends. And he said, let's come home, be home when the kids are home so we can be together and do things as a family. And so, that's just sort of how this has all morphed and changed and, along the years. But definitely to answer your question, there are still family members who don't really think that I am running a business.
Yeah, well, I 100% know that you are, Sarah. And I know that starting a business, it's not always super easy, just like you were saying along the way. And I know that a lot of photographers, no matter what age you are, we make a lot of mistakes in the beginning when we're trying to start the business because a lot of it is new to us, right? And for a lot of us, just like you and I were teachers, a lot of people that decide to start a photography business, usually it's not like right out of college, I'm going to be a photographer. Usually they have done other things too. So they're doing a lot of trial and error and making a lot of mistakes along the way. I'm going to assume that you made some mistakes along the way and that you weren't perfect. Can you share with us some of the big ones so maybe people out there that are listening don't make those mistakes?
Sure. One of the first things that I remember is I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to give it a cute name. I'm going to get a cute label, logo, because that's kind of what I thought starting a business meant. I was a math teacher, for all those years. I'd never worked in business. And so I found something that I thought was cute. And then I realized shortly after I came up with my logo and put it on a bunch of photos, that the name was already taken, maybe not by somebody in my city, but definitely by another photographer, actually multiple photographers nationwide. And maybe the name was already even trademarked potentially. So I sort of had to start over and rebrand everything, which wasn't that big of a deal, but it was just like, I wish that I had known from the beginning that you had to look out for trademarks on names and look to see if that name is already registered in your state or in your, local entity, whatever that is. That one was kind of a big one because that was just a big learning moment for me. And of course, I've made all kinds of other things along the way, but I don't really look back on them and think about them as mistakes. I really think about them more as learning opportunities. Because every time I made some kind of mistake, I went, oh, I need to do this differently next time instead. And so it was really more like a growth opportunity and knowing what to do or what not to do, and whether there was a steep learning curve when it comes to posing and lighting newborns. That's like a whole almost different thing than it is with adults and even young children. So there was so much learning and mistakes that I made early on. Like I know one of my first paid newborn sessions, I look back at those photos and I kind of cringe and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they paid me for these, because compared to my work now, it's so different. But again, it was learning, it was growth. I learned kind of what not to do in at that photo session, and then my very next one was already much better. So
I love
things
that.
along.
Yeah. And I think everyone just has to understand that, like, we don't all start perfectly and we don't all end perfectly because there's no end. Like, we're always continuing to get better. on, in our business and with our photography skills. Sarah, you said something like really quick in passing. You're like, oh, I can't believe they paid me in the beginning this much. Will you share, when you were starting out, how much were you charging for a newborn session?
Well, the first few I did totally free. I model calls for friends, things like that, because I knew that I needed to practice and at least have some idea. I think I charged like $150, maybe $200, and for like all the digital images possibly. So I think something along those lines, maybe $275, something like that.
Yeah, I think
because I newborn, that was for a newborn session, because you spend like 3 hours doing the session itself, plus all of the editing time. So
so people were getting a steal with you, Sarah, right?
absolutely. Well, I mean, you get what you pay for in some instances, really, yes.
So I'm assuming now that you've decided to grow your prices and build your prices, now that you've had that opportunity to grow and perfect your skills. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I'm sure that I know and I'm sure that you will be teaching when you are helping people with their businesses to do a cost of business analysis and think about all the things that you spend on your business, as well as how much time you spend on your business, to kind of come up with a number that is actually profitable, and realistic.
Yeah. And this is very common when people are starting a business. And when you said $150, I feel like that's just the number people pick. Like when they're starting a business, seems like it's either 50 or 150 or somewhere right in there. It just seems to be like, well, that's it. That's the magic number. But you're right. You've got to take a look at so many different things and determine, okay, what is that magic number for me? And you guys, if you're listening right now, what you should charge. And I'm not saying you shouldn't charge $50 or $150, especially if you're just starting out. Like you heard Sarah say, she started free, which is totally fine too. But you have to understand what your business goals are, what you're spending, what time you're spending, the energy that you're spending, and come up with that number and the price that's right for you. So I want to make that clear to everyone out there that, free or 50 or 150 isn't bad all the time at first, but you want to be making a very intentional decision to work your way up and move forward with your business too.
Right.
Now,
right.
There's got to be okay. So we talk mistakes, Sarah, and I love how you reframed that to just learning opportunities. So could you share more about just things that you have learned, maybe not mistakes, but what have you learned in your business and on your business journey that would be helpful to somebody?
As far as the business side, well, one thing I had no idea of when I very first started this is how much more time I spend doing business things as compared to taking photos. There's marketing, you've got to make sure that you're posting on social media. There's website upkeep. I go out and network. I have networking groups that I meet with regularly, and groups that I, try to word of mouth and get out there so that people know me more and know my business more. I am in a very large Houston, being the 4th largest city, in the nation, in a very large metro areas. It's very saturated with photographers. So you have to sort of really do something to set yourself apart and make yourself be known, and why someone should choose you over the next person. That's true everywhere, but especially in a large metro area like this.
Yeah.
I spend a lot more time doing the business side of things than actually taking and editing photos, which I never would have thought that before. So that's definitely one thing that I've learned.
And I think that's important to highlight right here too, especially if you are new, because I work with photographers and a lot of, that are in a lot of different stages of their journey right now. But if you're newer to starting your business, sometimes I think it's a misconception that you just have to take great pictures and then all of a sudden all of these people are going to want to book with you and you're just going to have this super successful photography business. But in reality, just like you were saying, it's a small percentage of your time that is actually being a photographer. You've got to learn so many other things to run a business. And I think that's where a lot of photographers end up either, quitting or failing, or just failing to understand that and getting discouraged. And so I'm glad you're here today. And I love that you're sharing all this with us, Sarah, so that all of you that are listening right now that maybe are at that stage, you need to realize that you need to, make those shifts, mindset shifts from photographer to business. And that's going to help you be really successful.
Sure.
Sarah, I know that a lot of the students that I coach and work with, the biggest question that they always have, and even not my students, just photographers in general, they want to know where to find clients. Where do you find people to hire you? So I want to go back into your business a little bit, and hopefully you will share maybe one or two golden nuggets of where people can actually get people that will pay them.
Yeah. When I first started and I was doing predominantly families, I really just made sure I talked about being a photographer and wanting to do family photography, and that I could around like my kids' friends' parents. My kids were in like Mother's Day Out programs at the time, and we would, physically walk into the school to sign them in and out of their classrooms. So there was a lot of interaction with other moms at the time, and those ended up being a lot of my clients at the beginning, was those families from that school. So and just being at birthday parties or things like that. It was a lot of the people that I socialized with. Kind of regularly, just because I had young kids and still have young kids. They're 6 and 3 right now, so they're still young. They're just sort of in that age where people are doing family photos still. So that is a place that I get a lot of clients from.
I think that's, I'm going to stop you right there, Sarah, because I think that is a really, really just golden way to find clients, and people kind of bypass that it's just people already, right? We start with people that know you already, that like you, that trust you, or at least they kind of know you.
Right.
And it's hard in the beginning, it's hard to say like, oh, I own a photography business, especially if you don't have any clients, or you've got, very few clients. You feel kind of like a fake or an imposter telling people that, but nobody is going to know if you don't tell them. And I like to tell a lot of my students too, it's not like you have to like rush up to people, like you were rushing up to people in the pickup line at school and going, hey, I'm a photographer. Do you want, do you want a session? Do you want a session? It's just while you're chatting with people, in passing, or if they're asking you like, oh, what are you doing this weekend? Or how was your day? If you were busy editing, you can just say, you know what, I've been working on these editing techniques for my photography company, and it comes up. And if they're interested, they'll talk to you about it. And if they're not, they'll start talking about themselves, but at least you're saying something. And maybe the person you talk to isn't in need of a photographer, but maybe that person behind you that was in the line, they overheard you talking about it. So the more you talk, like the more chances you have to meet a client. So Sarah, I love how you brought that up, because it's such an easy way to market yourself. But is there anything else that you did? Any other secret or not so secret marketing tips?
I don't think what I'm doing is super secret. Like I said, I go to networking events. That's sort of how my headshot and branding side, I don't know what you call it, niche, whatever, started. Because my heart is with supporting parents, especially new moms who are home with new babies or about to be. That's sort of where my heart is. But these people have businesses and own businesses and needed headshots and professional headshots done. And so they're like, hey, can you do this for me? And I absolutely can. So I've been am doing more of that and including that. I mean, that's one way, to get clients, is to put yourself out. I don't actually go to any networking events where you have to pay to be there. That's not true. There are some, but not any ones that I meet regularly that are, huge. There are some that cost a lot of money and you have to put in a ton of time. I found some just free ones that, meet sort of in my local area. You meet for lunch once a week, and you really build relationships with them, and they're helping, I'm helping them maybe meet some potential clients for them, and they help me too. And then of course, having a website and being listed on Google. I do get a lot of inquiries from Google searches, which is not a secret. I mean, that's a whole other can of worms to open, and how to do that successfully, which I'm still working on. But I do get a lot of inquiries from Google as well.
Yeah. Well, in the not so secret way, I think you nailed the two main ways that people do find clients. And that's one, online, right? They're doing Google searches. And like you said, that takes a lot to learn how to get your site up there. But two, yes, talking to people, talking to other photographers, networking with them, doing all of that, and combining that and creating that plan for yourself, shifting your mind to that business mindset. That's how you're going to, build and grow your business. Sarah, you've shared a lot of great stuff with us today. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you would like to, share or teach other photographers that are out there?
I don't know that I have anything specific. Just keep practicing, keep trying. If you're struggling, and I mean, I know people say this all the time, and I would get so frustrated, and still do sometimes. If you're at a slow point where you're not having a lot of clients, you're not getting a lot of paid bookings, like do model calls and do things for free. It's good practice for you to make sure that your skills are still sharp, and it also gives you content to be, posting everywhere, so that it at least looks like you're really busy and getting booked. I mean, I hope I didn't give away a big secret of something that I do. It's true, and I think a lot of photographers do that, and there's no shame in that.
No, not at all. No, and you're right. I don't think there is any secrets. It's growing your business. It's not really a secret thing. It's just creating that plan and getting out there and making it happen. And Sarah, if there's anyone in the Houston area that maybe wants to book with you, or just photographers that are listening that want to check out your work, because it is really beautiful, you guys, where can they find you, Sarah?
I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook. And I'm on LinkedIn now. That's new to me. It's Sarah Gassman Photography. Those are my names. You can search. Gassman has 2 S's. Sarah has an H at the end. I also have a website that's, www.sarahgassmanphotography.com. Any of those places you can find me.
Cool. And you know what? I'm going to link to those in the show notes. You guys, if you want to just head over there and click on them, you can see her. So if you're watching on, YouTube or iTunes, Spotify, wherever you are, just go to the description, or the show notes are right on the cozyclicks.com website. And you can just click that and find her. Sarah, before I say goodbye to you, so Sarah Gassman Photography is your business name now. What was the original business name that you had to give up?
It was Sunlight Photography, which, if you Google that, there are so many Sunlight Photography or some version of that businesses. So
interesting. I'm sure there were other people that had that same thought too. So in case you were thinking of naming your business Sunlight Photography, maybe do a little research and try to find a different name on that too. But Sarah, thank you so much for hanging out with us today, for teaching others, for all of the insight that you have to share. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Emily. I love chatting with you and learning from you as well. That's kind of how I started. So
that's right.
Yeah.
I absolutely love reconnecting with some of my past students, and I love hearing about Sarah's success and what she's done throughout her photography journey. And I want to quick recap some of the main points that Sarah made in today's podcast, because I think they are super helpful. And if you happen to miss these little tidbits of information, you're going to want to make sure that you listen up right now. Number 1, find clients by saying you're a photographer. Talk to everybody that you come across during your day and try to intertwine it into the conversation somehow. You don't need to be salesy. You just need to let people know that you're a photographer and that's what you do, right? And second, make sure you're getting out there and networking with other photographers, because one photographer may have clients that are not ideal to them, but are ideal to you. And together you can work with each other to help each other find more of the perfect clients for one another. All right, you guys, I will be back again next week with another brand new episode of the Stay Focused podcast. But until then, here's to staying in focus, in camera, and with your goals. Bye, you guys.